Hello, it's a real pleasure to be with you today. I'm Chris, Lord Holmes of Richmond. I've been in Parliament for the last 10 years. What I'd like to share with you today is just my thoughts on technology for public good, how we can maximise the opportunity, a few thoughts on governance, and then ultimately, what does all this mean currently for us as individuals, as institutions, and internationally. As I say, I've been in Parliament for 10 years and my work largely rests around new technologies such as AI, distributed ledger technology, Internet of Things, and also stretching across the whole issues of diversity and inclusion. My thesis is pretty simple, that the golden threads are talent and technology. We need to conceive of these new technologies for sure as incredibly powerful, not least artificial intelligence, but they're tools in our human hands for us to design, for us to develop, for us to deploy for human good. AI, of course, but also crucial to understand AI converging, AI in concert with other technologies, not least distributed ledger technology. What I'd like to start with is the current economic outlook, because that can be pretty stifling if we aren't able to get over it. Stubborn inflation around the world. On an individual level, cost of living crisis, energy crisis. And when we put the narrative around new technologies alongside that, it can seem pretty daunting. The bots are either going to take all of our jobs or they're going to kill us. We just don't know which is going to come first. But let me take us all to a lighter, brighter perspective. I think if we get this right, it's going to be much more about augmentation. Yes, there'll be a number of elements which AI is able to do, and it will take away some roles, but it will also create a whole heap of roles, and it will augment labour more than it simply destroys labour. In simple terms, if we just conceive of AI to human intellect, what STEAM was to human strength, then we get a sense of the scale of the possibilities and what we're dealing with here. And in that all AI is predicated on data, we need to fully understand what data we have, what data we need, what we want to do with that data, what's the bias like in that data, can synthetic data help? Lots of questions around that to really drill into. And what are some of the current trends that we're seeing with these new technologies? Certainly personalisation, which is and will continue to be incredibly powerful, not least when put together with predictive analytics. But edge computing and explainability, there's so much happening. And another critical point to understand, it's all happening at pace and it's all happening at the same time. So to pull the public good out of all this, let's consider concepts such as trustworthiness. A simple example, if citations were set alongside search results, that would be a really powerful step towards trustworthiness on the behalf of that service provider. Fairness, explainability, accessibility, interoperability, reusability, all of these ideas well worth thinking about a lot more. Perhaps the greatest public good has to be health, and certainly in the UK our National Health Service is the largest generator of health data on the planet. What we can have here, if we get it right, is both humans on the supply and the demand side. Diagnosis, for example, through personalisation, where people's medical plans are set against their own vital signs and medical data, giving that level of specificity, early intervention and better outcomes. When it comes to scans, if we just think across London, Moorfields Eye Hospital, a world-leading centre for eye research, using AI to scan hundreds of thousands of retina images. A consultant could never do that in her or his lifetime, but that consultant can then benefit from the AI having done all that scanning to augment their practice. And indeed, CareBots potentially solving the huge demographic dilemma that so many nations are currently facing. And it doesn't just have to be seen in terms of nice to have, pro bono. Public good can also rightly deliver a profit. Health, for example, is predicted by 2030 to have a compound annual growth rate of 37.5% when it comes to AI in health. That's certainly worth thinking about. Moving on to a second public good, perhaps a bit surprising, supply chain. I believe supply chain are the routes, the conduits, the corridor for delivering public good. It's why I got involved with the Electronic Trade Documents Bill, now an Act of Parliament here, to enable the digitisation of international trade. It's so currently disappointingly papery. The Electronic Trade Documents Act I've described as the most important act, the most important piece of legislation no one's ever heard of. It's incredibly straightforward, incredibly simple. It merely means that trade documents can be held in electronic form. You may think this has been possible for decades, not so, because they're possessive documents in nature. That means if you hold the paper, you hold the goods. So it's technology that has enabled this Act of Parliament, because through blockchain currently, though the Act is rightly non-prescriptive on the technology, it means that I could hold an electronic trade document and I could prove that nobody else held that document, and that would give me the right to hold those goods. Great first step for the UK to be the first G7 nation to pass this Act, but we need every nation, every single nation around the world to pass similar legislation in their jurisdictions so we can truly have digitally enabled electronic trade document driving trade for economic benefit, for environmental benefit. Imagine all those days. Currently it takes around 7 to 10 days to transfer title. Those 7 to 10 days through electronic trade documents melted into minutes. No longer the need for someone to get on a plane at Heathrow to fly to Singapore with a trade document to unite it with the goods. All done electronically in minutes. So financial inclusion, again, a key element where technologies can be brought to bear. Imagine how all of that data can be used to give real-time assessment of people's credit worthiness, enabling credit to people currently just denied on the computer says no. That's not increasing risk, it's just having real-time assessment of what the true credit worthiness is of that individual. If we financially include, it makes not only economic, it makes social, it makes psychological sense. What do we need to wrap all around these new technologies? The right regulatory, the right governance framework. It's why I put proposals to the Financial Services and the Markets Act earlier this year to suggest that all businesses should have an AI officer on their board to be able to stand up and explain where AI is used in that business and to talk about the ethical basis on which that AI is being deployed in that organisation. Why is governance, why is regulation so important? Because things go wrong, and we see that in all sectors. In this area specifically, I can pull a number of examples. An autonomous vehicle driving into a pedestrian, an HR recruitment software supposedly designed to transform the shortlisting process in IT, only shortlisting male candidates because it was trained on previous 10 years of data where largely only men had got those jobs. It's so obvious when you look at it, but these are real examples of how the technology can go wrong if we don't have the right regulatory, the right governance framework, and have explainability right at the core of all of this. So what does all this mean for us as individuals? We need to ensure we have our skeptical senses fully tuned, always skeptical, never cynical. We need to be curious. Crucially, we need to get involved in the public debate, and we need to get involved with the AI itself. For institutions, all institutions are data businesses, are AI organisations. We need to ensure that they are all trustworthy institutions, have to have the golden threads of talent and technology running through them to be able to scale rather than taking a case by case approach, to bring in the large language models, potentially in a closed modelling environment, which could be incredibly powerful for both public and private institutions alike. Critically, as has always been the case, there needs to be a relentless and complete focus on the customer, true, real, sustainable customer centricity. And internationally, well, AI knows no borders, knows no boundaries. It's as good a reason to drive an international, connecting, co-creating, collaborating environment as anything else. The greatest challenges we face now, climate, energy, and indeed AI itself, are all international, are all global in nature, and we need to collaborate around them. Crucially, the legislation, the regulation, and the technologies themselves need to have interoperability running right through. So, immense opportunities, but we need to be fully cognizant of the risks, of how these technologies can go wrong, and then to regulate, to legislate, to plan, to prepare, to develop and deploy so they go right. Because if this doesn't go right, it won't be a failure of the technology, it will be a failure of us. We have such an extraordinary opportunity being around at this time. Human-led technologies for public good, common good, private good, economic growth, social growth, psychological growth. That is what we have in front of us right now, and we all have a role to play. Enjoy the conference, connect with new people, connect with new friends. Join me on LinkedIn at Lord Chris Holmes. Would love to hear your views on all of this. Look forward to catching up with you all really soon. Take care. Thanks very much.